Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar today, which has the title Mastering Legislative Change, CSRD, Double Materiality and ESRS. Just some basic information about this Zoom webinar platform, which we are using today. On the next slide, you will all be muted during the webinar today to ensure the best audio quality. And please feel free to send us any questions during the presentation via the question function, and please do not use the chat. Here in the screenshot, you can see on the bottom, the button where you can see the Q&A window, and please type your question there and send it to us. We will try to answer those questions during the webinar, and if there are any questions left, we will also use we'll also answer them in the end in the Q&A session. Maybe it's also good to know for you that we will provide you with the download link for the presentation as well as the recording in our follow-up email in the next days. Hello from our side. My name is Sophia Wolf. I am working as a sustainability manager at Leadership and Sustainability and have been a member of the strategy team now for 4 years. And today I'm joined by Karin Ekberg, our CEO, and we are happy to take you through the webinar today, and you will hear later from Karin in the second part of the presentation. Then let's just have a look at the agenda for today. In the session, we will start briefly with the introduction to the European Green Deal. And secondly, we will talk about the what, so understanding the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, also known as CSRD. And then we also would like to introduce the European Sustainability Reporting Standard to you and explain the process of conducting a double materiality assessment, which will help your company to identify relevant financial and non-financial impacts, risks, and opportunities during the current dynamic legal landscape. And towards the end of the webinar, we would be happy to clarify any remaining questions from your side. Yes, and also please feel free to state them in the chat beforehand. Then to just start with the content, we have a little model prepared for you, which shall visualize the complex structure of the EU Green Deal. And here in the core, we have the overarching goals, like, for example, the climate goals 2030 and 2050, or the rapid transition to sustainable mobility. And now in the outer part, in the orange boxes, which will just appear in a moment, you see all the strategies that will navigate the way towards those goals. And the European Green Deal pursues the overall goal of transforming the European Union economy for a sustainable future. And the EU wants to be perceived as a global pioneer, above all by adopting a European Climate Pact. And financing the transition and leaving no one behind are key issues at the center of this. And the European Union also recognizes the need to mobilize research and also promote innovation. And all these sub-targets here now listed in green color for the areas of climate, environment, biodiversity, mobility, and so on, are the goals and the strategies which you can see around them will be used to achieve those goals. And now in the ongoing presentation, we will discuss some of them in more detail. So let's just come to the what, understanding the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. To dive deeper into the topic, here are some key aspects of the CSRD, and as you might know, the scope has been broadened and requires over 15,000 companies in the European Union to comply to the CSRD. And the second key aspect is consistency, which will be improved through a set of ESRS standards with comprehensive disclosure requirements. Next key aspect is the detailed reporting requirements, And some areas to disclose will include impacts, risks, opportunities, strategy, and targets of material topics. And just to explain what a material topic is, the term materiality is originally from financial accounting concept, and this means it's an important topic. So when a topic is material, it is important for your company. Then the next key topic is the third party assurance that is mandatory under the CSRD. And at this point, the assurance is kept to a limited level. And lastly, the management report is to be submitted in an electronic format. And therefore, the ESG report should be integrated into an annual or financial report and not be separate anymore. And the purpose of these key aspects is to ensure the quality, transparency, and comparability of ESG information to the level of the current financial disclosure. Then let's have a look at the timetable, which will need to be followed. From 2024, companies previously subject to the non-financial reporting directive to the NFRD and listed non-EU companies will be required to report under the ESRS. And just a side note here, what is the non-financial reporting directive? This is the forerunner of the CSRD, and companies must disclose non-financial information on ESG performance in the annual report under this directive. Then next, the first sustainability statement must be published in 2025. And all other large companies, including also large listed non-EU companies, must start reporting and publishing their first sustainability statement in 2026. And also here a side note, which company is classified as large? Companies which meet 2 out of the 3 criteria here listed in the middle blue box are listed as large. So if they have a balance sheet of more than 25 million euros, if the turnover is more than 50 million euros, or the employee number is more than 250 in average. And please also note that the subsidiaries are part of the large company, so all branches of the company count into overall numbers. And then listed SMEs, the next one, and non-EU listed SMEs will start reporting in the 2026 financial year, with the first sustainability statements published in 2027. But SMEs also have the opportunity to exempt themselves from the reporting obligation for a further 2 years. And the last possible date is the 2028 financial year, with the first sustainability statement published then in 2029. And after that, the remaining non-EU companies with branches or subsidiaries in the European Union must also report in accordance with the CSRD. And here is just a very small summary of what I have just told you. The CSRD requires companies to report in an integrated report on environmental, social, and governance topics. And the materiality assessment, which we will just cover in the next parts of the presentation, helps you to prepare for the report and also map your impact areas. And you must also note that the report now must be a part of the financial report and cannot be a standalone report anymore. And another key aspect is you are also required to report on double materiality. And double materiality means that both the impacts of the activities of the people on the environment, and as well as how sustainability matters are affecting the financial matters of the company, must be reported. And the materiality assessment itself, as outlined in this presentation, includes the concept of double materiality, but there are also different methods and concepts of double materiality. and different ways of doing that. And lastly, the CSRD also requires the corporation to use a third-party assurance provider. Yes, Karin, I'm handing over to you now for some more information about the ESRS.
Thank you so much, Sophia, and hello everyone from my side as well. Let me give you some more information about the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, the ESRS. The ESRS, they have been developed by EFRAG. This is a private institution which is funded by the European Commission and tasked to develop the European reporting standards. The ESRS should support companies in developing both comprehensive and comparable data on the ESG, environmental, social, and governance impacts. The ESRS guides on how to report about the ESG material impacts, risks, and opportunities to advance the reporting scope and quality and to promote transparency for sustainability. The ESRS has the double materiality perspective, and I will soon explain what this means. The reporting is now harmonized through the CSRD and the 12 ESRS standards. These standards cover all ESG, environmental, social, and governance topics, and the first two standards cover overarching expectations on the report. The ESRS 1 give guidance regarding the report, and the ESRS 2 cover general disclosures, and I will give some more information about these two on the next few slides. The topical standards, on the other hand, they are divided again into environment, social, and governance, and all of the topical standards must be included if the respective topic is material according to a materiality assessment. For the environmental topics, as you can see illustrated here, there is one caveat. In the case where ESRS E1 for climate change is deemed as not relevant by the organization itself, then this organization must explain why this should be the case. So depending on your materiality assessment, if for any reason the ESRS E1 climate change would be deemed as not material, you do need to explain that in your report. The social topics, they cover own workforce, workers in the value chain, affected communities and consumers and end users. And then we have the governance topics, where the one standard covers business conduct. And in the process of development are also standards for SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, as well as sector-specific standards. And now, let me talk a bit about the ESRS, the general requirements. ESRS includes mandatory principles and covers the categories of standards and disclosures. There are three categories, as explained on the previous slide: the cross-cutting, the topical, and the sector-specific. And the principles are that qualitative characteristics in relation to the sustainability statement must be included. The double materiality assessment, which defines which sustainability matters the organization should report on, and of course also work on. And due diligence, which is about ensuring that all impacts, risks, and opportunities are actually considered as well. And due diligence, and then we have the value chain. And here it is important to cover the entire value chain in the considerations and in the reporting. The value chain information that is material should be included. So this is also a requirement. You cannot focus only on your own operations, for example. You need to take your entire value chain into consideration. So it is quite significant requirements that you have, and it adds a lot of complexity to the analysis. But you will see a bit later that it actually also helps to have this particular structure. Then we have the time horizon, which is regulated. Preparation and presentation covers the scope of the report, how to inform about uncertainties, how to compare data with previous reporting years, etc. And you have the structure of the sustainability statement. For example, the statement should be structured into 4 parts: general information, environmental information, social information, and governance information. And there are also a requirement regarding the link to the corporate report and transitional provisions. So the general requirements, the ESRS covers quite a lot of content already. And now let's move on to the ESRS 2, which establishes disclosure requirements that are universal and applicable to all companies. And these are governance. How are impacts, risks, and opportunities managed at a governance level, so at a really top level of the company? And then the strategic interaction with impacts, risks, and opportunities, and how they interact with the strategy and the business model. So don't forget the business model. This is really important because we are talking about sustainability becoming an integral part of the company's business model. So you really need to reflect on your business model and perhaps even adjust your business model as you go when you develop your sustainability strategies. Then we have the impact, risks, and opportunity management in the process, including the identification and the assessment. And finally, we have metrics and targets requirements. And now, let me move on and show you the process of conducting a double materiality assessment. So I can tell you that the method that we will now be talking about, it follows to 100% the CSRD requirements on how to conduct a materiality assessment. On the other hand, the CSRD requirements, they don't give you a finished methodology. It just explains which considerations you need to take and which elements that you need to include into your assessment. But first now, I want to show you what does it mean, the double materiality assessment. Well, double materiality is the concept that provides criteria for the determination of whether a sustainability topic or information must be included in the sustainability report. Double materiality is the union of impact materiality and financial materiality. So far, many organizations may have been looking mainly on their impact materiality. We know some have been looking at financial materiality with different methods as well. And here it is now required that you take the financial materiality into account as well, as much as possible. And so the impact materiality refers to an inside-out perspective, to just simplify it a bit, and looks at what impact a company has with its activity on the particular sustainability topic. You can see here climate as one example. And then on the other hand, we have the financial materiality, which refers to an outside-in perspective and looks at how a company's financial performance or development is impacted by the sustainability topic. And in this case, we have the example of climate change again. So, for instance, a company's impact on the climate can also be financially material. And now let me move on to the materiality assessment. The materiality assessment can help you to prepare for legal compliance and possible future legislation. This helps you build the system you need in order to ensure legal compliance, which is, of course, for all of us, the baseline of any sustainability work that you are doing. You need to make sure that you are compliant with legislation. Then, to identify impacts, risk drivers, and opportunities, risks for accidents, risks for financial losses, risk for your brand and reputation, etc. And similarly, we also cover opportunities. Opportunities are the upside of risks. They are not always identical with the so to say negated risks, but they should be considered as well. And every so often we hear only about risk management. And of course, risk management is important and maybe the starting point. But if you don't start to try to reap the opportunities that you have around you, then you will not be able to develop a really full-fledged and really well-grounded sustainability strategy. Because we think that the focus on legislation leads to a compliance mindset, which is not a modern approach to sustainability at all. And opportunities can be related to energy and cost savings, a better reputation, and thereby a better market position, and so much more. And the inclusion of opportunities is now mandatory, also according to CSRD and ESRS. So they have not forgotten about the opportunities. And now you can set a basis for further sustainability strategy decisions and the development of your sustainability strategy that really also fits your company. So it should not be a generic strategy. It should be one that meets your impacts, risks, and opportunity, gives responses to them. And for example, with the opportunities, really takes the opportunities and does something with them. And of course, you can also gain an external perspective on sustainability actions and measures of your role as a brand, retailer, or supplier. So even for companies who have a sustainability strategy already, perhaps you have been engaging with sustainability programs, you have a team who is working on that already, perhaps even since a few years, it is still very powerful to have that external perspective also on your work. And so now let me explain how we conduct a double materiality assessment. And we, as I said, we take into consideration all the requirements coming from the CSRD, but what I am now going to present is the method that we have been developing. And the materiality assessment, according to our method, has been developed actually over the past 20 years and is now completely aligned with the requirements of CSRD. And it takes place in a matrix format. So it is a big table that we work in. On the one hand, we include the value chain as represented by the company's business functions. This is just one example here. We always, when we work with our clients, we customize this representation here to really fit your organization and your terminology. And on the other hand, the various parts of the value chain are assessed on the basis of environmental, social, and governance aspects. And you see them summarized here to the left. And now, so in the illustration, you can see now the how the rough structure of this matrix works. So the assessment itself, it is then done within this table here and divided into impacts, risks, and opportunities in each part of the value chain. So obviously, we fill this out with a lot of additional cells in order to be able to do this assessment. It's quite a detailed, quite a complex assessment that we are doing, but it follows this structure, which makes sense because if you tell me that water consumption is important for you, I say, okay, that sounds great, but where in your value chain is it important for you? Where are your main risks? Where in your value chain are your main risks for water consumption? Where do you have water scarcity problems? And where are your opportunities to perhaps save water? And that is where the value chain perspective comes in and can help you to sort out all your sustainability impact categories or aspects and make sure that you locate them into the right position where they belong in the value chain. And that is, of course, not only important for the assessment, but also when you move on and develop or adjust your own sustainability strategy, you will be able to focus on the areas of the value chain for each and every sustainability aspect where it really makes sense. And so I should, of course, also mention, we have not included all the details in our matrix here. This just gives you the structure and the approach to our structure. But the different criteria, they are, of course, further divided into specific sub-criteria that are then assessed. And I will talk a bit more about those very soon. But in the meantime, I also want to give you an example of the topics that may be included in the materiality assessment. So here you can see several of the topics that are covered by the ESRS. It's a very detailed list. And this could be the list that you would be working off from. Perhaps you have another terminology. Perhaps you have some topics that you group together, or you have another structure in your approach. But basically, we should try to follow the ESRS as much as possible. So the ESRS topical standards, they specify which matters that should be included. So for example, we have climate change, we have pollution, then on the social side, we have all the working condition here in the middle, all the working condition topics, among others. And finally, we have the governance topics, and that they could be, like in this case, with this example, we have animal welfare and world culture. And the exact sustainability criteria to be assessed are then discussed also with the client to just make sure that, again, that the structure really fits your work. Perhaps you are using other words, or perhaps you have a bit of a slightly different cluster in the work that you do. And obviously, we want to make sure that we don't disrupt your entire programs that you already have in place. And then how do we now come and work in the detailed assessment and come to more summarized scores and an assessment that you can take and decide how you want to now adjust your strategy? Well, in the first step, we conduct a detailed assessment. This is a work that normally we do most of it. And it is a very detailed assessment that we do, and thereby we identify the gross impacts, risks, and opportunities. You can see it says gross risk here, but we do everything is gross here. So impacts, risks, and opportunities gross. And what do we mean by gross? We mean this is customized to how your company is structured, but it doesn't include any of the programs you have in place today. So it is independent of what you are actually doing in terms of sustainability. It's like the state without any interruption or impact from your side. Therefore, it's called gross. And here we also make sure to incorporate, for example, the EU legal register or any other legal requirements into the risk assessment. And these results then represent the gross and the detailed risks and impacts and opportunities. And now, in order to enable individualized results for your company based on what you are doing today, based on the strategy and the programs you have today and the activities you have, we would also assess your sustainability status. And we do this by reviewing a checklist that we would prepare for you that is also customized to your company. And we review that with the respective business functions. So usually we set up interviews with these particular business functions and go through their respective questions, discuss the questions, understand how the company is organized in this area. We collect also additional materials if they are available in order for us to review. And then we also conduct the interviews, as I said. And furthermore, also, and this is a requirement from CSRD, some level of stakeholder engagement should take place. There is no specific methodology that is described in the requirements or any method to tell you how you need to do this, but this is something that needs to be included into your considerations as well. And in the end, that enables us to summarize the results into first a hotspot matrix. And this now represents the net risks and impacts. So from our side, we work first in a very, very detailed assessment. We include the status based on your interview, based on the interviews and the checklist responses. And then we have a hotspot result, which shows actually both the gross and the net risks. So we have both pictures, so to say, from your company before and after your programs, and summarized as hotspots. And I will now show you a very small screenshot. This is a very, very small copy from a complete assessment. And you can see there are just a few environmental aspects listed here. And obviously, we always fill this table out completely down to the end. And we also have here only management and strategy and product development as examples of the business functions. And obviously, this table on this side is also filled out with more and more columns, depending on how your organization is set up. So we define the value chain, we define the sustainability impact categories, we conduct the detailed materiality assessment, and finally we have the hotspot matrix with impacts, risks, and opportunities of the value chain regarding the sustainability topics. So there is quite a lot of work in here, and we have quite a scientific approach in the structure and in the method that we work on. But what we also should say is that it is a qualitative, quantitative approach. There are no formulas behind the different assessments. But it is we do it based on our experience and based on the information that we get from you, based on literature as well. And now you might be asking yourself what the categories describe exactly. And let me go through them just briefly. With the status, we evaluate to what extent your company has already implemented measures regarding the impact categories. So, and that is the checklist and the interviews, as I mentioned. We will learn what do you have in place, for example, for sourcing. Do you have a code of conduct? Do you have a sourcing program? Do you evaluate your suppliers? Do you have an audit program? Do you have a corrective action plan and any improvement projects with your suppliers? Do you have a whistleblowing function? And a lot of questions related to sourcing. And then the impact covers the average impact and individualization, including the status. And here there are also some requirements coming from CSRD on how to do this. And then the same applies for risks and opportunities. And you will remember the previous slide with the Excel screenshot and the results of the materiality assessment. When you work with us for the materiality assessment, we will prepare a comprehensive PowerPoint report with illustrations, screenshots, and lots of explanations related to the result, as well as a detailed description of the methodology. We have found a really good way to illustrate the results in a wheel graphic that will empower you to get a great overview of the results, function by function at a glance. As a client of leadership and sustainability, you will get full access to these graphics as well. And so now let me talk a bit about what the benefits are according to our view. So for those of you who might still wonder, what are the benefits of the materiality assessment for their company? So let me show you. You will get an overview of your sustainability status quo. And with this, you will be able to identify your biggest needs for actions according to what is material to your company. So you will be completely compliant then with the CSRD and the different ESRS standard, because you will be reporting about the topics that are really important for you and material to your business. It will also set the basis for your sustainability strategy. And you will not have to worry about compliance issues in this area anymore. And we will deliver you a tailor-made solution created by an experienced global team that supports you as well as answers all your questions along the way. And last but not least, we are dedicated to a holistic approach that includes environmental, social, and governance-related aspects. So these are the benefits, and let me take you also through the takeaways, and very soon I will open up for questions. So please begin to post your questions in the Q&A box, and I'm sure that you will have a lot of questions for us. So we know this has been a lot of input, and therefore we'd like to summarize the key takeaways of today's sessions. So to utilize a method that is effective and insightful, the value chain approach helps organize your assessment and your strategy, because you will know where are the different sustainability impact categories, where are they most important to me. You will learn as you go through the process, and just the thinking process, when you work in this matrix structure that we have developed, you will see that new thoughts come to mind, because perhaps you have a certain area that you haven't been looking at before. And now you realize that this is something, wow, this is something I should be looking at as well. And so it's a learning journey at the same time. You will be mastering legislative change, and you will be managing what is the most important, and both for impact, risks, and opportunities. So you will have the possibility later to really grasp the different opportunities that you have. Because, you know, if you are a manager of a company or you are reporting to a manager, they will want to know what is the business case of what we are doing here? Why is this important to us? And if you can show what are the impacts, risks, and opportunities, how do I want to deal with them, then you can actually also begin developing your business case for your strategy. And if you are interested in a proposal from us, then we have a specific booking form for the materiality assessment that you can fill out. And the link we have provided here. And there you can also include, if you are interested in a sustainability report, for example, or also in a strategy project. Most often when we work with our clients, we conduct both the materiality assessment and the strategy, and we also develop the sustainability report with the client, because it all goes hand in hand, but it obviously also is a stepwise or a phased-wise process. And now I would like to open up for questions. So let us see here. Do we have any questions for us? Yes. Are you regarding different future scenarios as well as short to long-term IROs? Are you including this in your materiality analysis as well? We are looking at both short and long-term IROs, but we do not, and of course we include future scenarios as far as we know them. And we could include also a scenario setting into the method for you, but right now it is adopting a one scenario, the best scenario as we think. But of course, it will theoretically be possible to differentiate the assessment also into different scenarios. But they would then be like parallel assessment that we would need to do in order to take care of that. And then yes. So if you would do a materiality assessment with us, and let's say, or you have done it before, and you want to compare the results, okay, if you have done it before with another method, then it might be difficult to compare, but we could certainly try to do that. If you would conduct a materiality assessment with us according to our method, one can always come back and update the assessment, of course. For example, you have now implemented a comprehensive sustainability strategy, you have now a climate change program, you have now a sourcing program, and then of course we could then adapt in the status. So in the interviews that we would conduct with you and the responses that you give in the checklist, these responses would be changed, and therefore your status score would be changed, which means that your net impacts, risks, and impacts and risk would be changed based on that. So the gross results would probably stay the same unless significant changes have been done in your value chain, for example, or in your sourcing countries or in your product portfolio. But otherwise, the gross impacts, risks, and opportunities would be the same, but the net results would then be adjusted. And this means also that when you develop your strategy, you can compare with your assessments. You can say, okay, here I have my table with all the results, and now I will take my most significant risks, my critical risks, and here I will now develop a program. And so like sourcing. So you develop a program there, and then you can already see during the project of developing your strategy, now my risk is actually going down here. Yes. Where do you work specifically? Would you work with global companies located outside of Europe with a subsidiary? Do you partner? So we actually, very many projects that we run are virtual. We work with clients globally. Right now, we are also working, for example, we are working with Asian clients, European clients, and with American clients as well. And it works out really well. After COVID, I think all of us have adapted to do more virtual work than what we did previously. Obviously, we are based, our corporate team is based here in Germany, and with our German clients, every so often we do on-site work as well, have longer workshops together. Virtually, for example, a 4-hour workshop might be a bit tiresome. We would then split it up into 2 sessions. But yes, we do work with global companies, and we all have global experience. So I have been working with Adidas previously. I was responsible for environment globally at Adidas. And obviously there we have the global perspective, and we also have lots of global projects. And we have a lot of local team colleagues in many different countries. And when it comes to specifically supply chain topics, they every so often they support us. Most of them are working with supply chains, supporting brands, but also supporting factories. For example, with the Cascale, programs, but also with other programs. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. And we have time for more questions. Take the opportunity. You're welcome. Any comments? Anything that I went through a bit too fast or I didn't explain? Yes. We can respond to you about that, about our contact details, and we also have that actually on our next slide. And you can please contact. We have Stephanie here also in our team. She's leading the strategy team for us, and she also has a lot of brand experience, a really long experience in the sustainability area. And you can reach out to her. So she will send you her email address in the question and answer function. And then are you analyzing on topic level or impact, risk, and opportunity level? I'm not sure if I understand the difference. We analyze everything on a topic level, and there we analyze for impacts, risks, and opportunities. So we go into very detail. So if you imagine, for example, we look at the sourcing function and we look at climate change, then we analyze the sourcing function regarding climate change for impacts, risks, and opportunities, and even at a more detailed level, as I said. So the risks, we have them subdivided into different categories, opportunities and impacts as well. I hope that responded to your question. Otherwise, perhaps you can send a follow-up question. And then we have a comment. Yes, even if double materiality is a very important step of reporting, it is not well structured and not standardized, as I understand. Do you think this can cause another greenwashing for the SME companies in the future? Well, at least in my view, the risk for greenwashing will be reduced if you apply the CSRD requirements, because the requirements on the materiality assessment, they are quite rigorous, even though they don't give you a method. And you know, I don't think that the authorities or the legislative, that you in a legislation would receive methods. That's normally not the case. You get the requirements and the standards, and then you need to find the best method to fulfill these requirements. And yes, but what is also important, and this is a requirement from CSRD, that is that you can explain how you have conducted your materiality assessment. So when if you would work with us and you would then have your reporting phase, hopefully we can support you with that, but we would also provide you with the right level of explanations. Obviously, we don't publish our method in any detail, but our clients, they know a lot about our methods, and there is a level of transparency that you can reach that will be sufficient for the CSRD requirements. So, and greenwashing, if you are based in the European Union, you know that there is also a greenwashing directive coming out very soon. So obviously the authorities are really looking at this topic very much. But as long as you explain how you have done it, if you use facts, and then you should be fine. Another question, the picture you showed is summarizing the IROs for each topic. So if one risk is material, but the other IROs of the topic are not, then the IRO is still material. Yes, so we then differentiate. So let's say risks. There we look at brand risks, we look at legal risks, we look at financial risks. And actually, sometimes there may be a difference in the risk assessment there. So in the detailed assessment, we can then go and have a look. Aha, my brand risk is more significant than the financial risk or than, for example, the legal risk. So you do have that differentiation, but it is true that in the hotspot assessment, we would summarize the impacts, the risks and opportunities, but not as a whole. The impact separately, the risk separately, and the opportunity separately. So we don't group the I and the R and the O together, if I explain that correctly. Okay. I hope that responded to your question. You can always go back and look at the detailed results to see which type of impact is really most important for me and which risk and which opportunity. Okay, thanks. Great. Any other questions? All right. So you still have a few minutes before we really close this webinar. But in the meantime, let me show you our contact details. So here on this slide, you can see some of our colleagues. We have been growing, and we started our company 8.5 years ago, or I started the company 8.5 years ago. But I have some colleagues who have been with us for many years. Like Sophia said, she has already been with us for 4 years, or a bit more than 4 years. And we have in the team here in Germany, we are now 15 team members, and we are based in some different cities, so we can reach you very soon if you are based in Germany. But we also have globally, we have another 50 persons globally working with us, and you can see some of them on this slide. And I also wanted to mention that Stephanie, who has also been supporting with responding to the questions here. Stephanie Riederhaas, she joined our company recently. She comes from another brand, and she has a long experience with sustainability. And so together with me, you can reach out either to me or to Stephanie, and you also can see our mobile numbers there. So please feel free to reach out to us. And here in Germany, we also have divided our team into 2 teams. So we have the strategy team, where Stefan is now the team lead, and we also have the supply chain team. And the supply chain team, they focus on all the work we do in the supply chain. So they work a lot with our global colleagues on the different supply chain programs that we have. All right. And with that, no further questions. And then I also wanted to give you the contact details, of course, also of Sophia. So, and so you can reach out, of course, to Sophia as well. And with that, if there are no further questions, I thank you so much for joining this webinar. And please feel free to reach out to us. And I hope that you enjoyed it, and wish you a great rest of your day. And thanks so much.